if one of the two of you in the room would lead the rest of the meeting, at least until I can get there.
Who would you like to do that?
Hal, I would like Hal to do it.
Perfect.
I missed the first few meetings. I didn't even know I was on this committee. I only came last time because y'all were buying family practice. And so I showed up for half the meeting.
Well, Hal, tag you're it. So
Okay,
let's
Thank
call
you,
this
Paul.
meeting to order at 2:05 on
Okay.
Thursday, the 11th.
do we need a roll call or do you
12th,
have
the 12th.
captured?
I have everything captured.
Okay, then
We have- Go ahead.
we need a motion to approve the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
Is there any objection? We'll move forward with this agenda. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to address the committee? I'm not hearing anyone. Okay, the next item is the approval of the minutes. And I'd like to ask that the committee members be put in italics. So we don't need to waste time to try to figure that out now, but could you add that? And then we'll accept a motion with
I
that.
move to accept the minutes as presented.
Is there any objection? Okay, then we'll move forward. Old business, ED reservation, renovation. Kim, do you have anything for us?
Thank you, through the chair. And Lisa might be talking about this as well, but it is in the packet. So the contractors have been selected as for the CMAR, which was awarded to Cornerstone. And they're moving forward with that. Once the Cornerstone's on board, then we'll resume the plans to continue the ED renovation. Of course, the federal funding is also still, we're not sure where that's going to go, but we're proceeding business as usual. In anticipation that that won't be a hiccup.
Okay. Are there any questions?
I have a question. Because I was on the planning committee for a while and then moved off and now I'm back to sort of catch up to speed in the ER. They've done some things, haven't they? Have they started some of the renovation? No or nothing? No. Okay.
Nothing.
So everything was put on hold because of funding issues and we kind of pulled back. And then there was, we have got some money already set aside for it, 6 million or something, as I recall. There was a federal grant that was going to come in. We didn't get. There was a chance we were going to get it the next year. I'm sort of rehashing old information, sorry. But, and then we've picked this contractor and they're going to move forward with the whatever 60% or whatever that thing is. Okay.
Yeah, and we did get, I mean, we still have the federal funding sitting there from the feds. That's been awarded to us. It's just everything's frozen right now.
And the start date is,
They're looking at potentially June 26th and June of 2026, maybe to start some of them, but it's still kind of in flux. To try to maybe do some outside work. That's but understanding that when I talked to the ED team at their meeting on Tuesday, the request from the providers were to not do construction during crew season. But the scale of this construction project is going to cross a crew season. It's just going to. Yeah, so if they can try to do as much as they can in June and then hopefully get some steam coming in October, November, those times, but it'll cross a crew season no matter where it starts or stops. But that's why it's important to have the CMAR, the construction manager at risk, because they specializes in construction projects and 24-hour operations.
so the amazing thing is I haven't been on for 8 months and nothing's changed. That's amazing.
And
It's been years.
the construction that you've seen that has been going on in the ER was the replacement of the ED booms that were in 5 of the rooms there, and then trauma 1, 2, 3, and then the ortho room and minor suture booms. The hydraulics were failing and we had to get those replaced. So that was the minimal stuff we had going on recently, but that's all been completed.
Right. Thank you.
And nothing will have happened. That'll be the story for quite a time.
For another year. Yeah.
Okay.
I have one more question.
Oh, please.
My question is that when do we anticipate we're going to get the 65% since it's been awarded?
Through the chair, could I speak to that and a couple other
Yes,
things?
yes, please do. Please do.
So, to clarify just a couple things, my understanding, first of all, with the grant is that we've been awarded the grant, but it's a grant, based on reimbursement. So, and the grant is for construction. So it is, as we get in, once we're to the construction part, we will have certain line items in the construction that are like kind of indicated or designated as paid for by the grant. And then as the contractor invoices for those items, we will then get reimbursement from the grant that way. So just a slight clarification of whether we have the money sitting there or not. And we don't really have control of when we ask for it, other than once we start construction, if that makes sense. As far as the 65% design documents, we are, so as Kim said, Cornerstone has been selected to be our CMAR contractor, and we are working on getting them a contract for them to sign. There's been a little hiccups with the CDJ contract office, but it should be, I keep hearing it's going to be the next couple days, and I really do think it will be signed before the end of the week. Once they are on board, we'll have like a mini kickoff meeting, and then that contractor will do a 35% cost estimate based on the 35% drawings we already have. And during that mini kickoff meeting is when we'll meet with the contractor and the representatives from Bartlett and the designers and kind of do a whole project schedule, because the contractor will be able to tell us how long they need to get that 35% cost estimate, because we don't want to start designing the 65% until we can be informed by that cost estimate, because that's really why we want the contractor on board. In case that estimate comes up high, then they can suggest ways that we can come back within budget. And we want to make sure we have those conversations before we're moving to the 65% design, so that it's an informed design, right, based on budget. So sorry, the answer is we don't yet have a date for when the 65% documents will come, but I think it will. I would say the contractor will need probably 2 to 3 weeks to do their estimate. And then once we designing, I think it was like 4 to 6 weeks, although I could get back to you on that, of design to get to 65%. So we're quite a few weeks out before we're at our 65% design.
Okay.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
Yeah, and if you need any more specifics than that, just let me know and I can get back to you with more information.
Okay. All right, are we ready for the next item on the agenda, which is project updates? Lisa, do you have more on that?
Sure. I think you guys may know that I am the interim for GEAM as we're hiring a new chief architect. And I think she would just go really briefly through each project. Would you like me to do that?
Yes.
Okay. And I'll just follow what's on the update. So the ground floor asbestos abatement project, really all the abatement is complete. At the end, we added abating the walls and the ceiling in the storage room, and which used to be called, or probably still is, facility security storage. And so we are still in the build back of that room, and we are hoping that that work will be accomplished by the end of July. The contractor should be back on site soon, but we've also run into a few hiccups on that. So it's with this huge project that went really great and all got done before it, way ahead of schedule, and then we added a little work, and that's been kind of lagging on, but I think we're making progress. Wildflower Court fuel tank, the update I gave you that was from May 29th, it says it expects the switchover on June 2nd, which I apologize. And then demolition would begin, and I did not get an update since this time on that project, but I'm assuming that happened. I don't know, Kim, if you have any more to add on that.
I don't know, I don't have any more information on that either.
Okay. Then the Wildflower Court, life safety condition assessment. We're, it says on here that it's gonna advertise mid-June, which it is not. We're in mid-June and it hasn't advertised, but this one, again, we're also hoping to get out within a week or two. The Wildflower Court sidewalk replacement. This was awarded to Admiralty, and says it's beginning early summer. And again, I tried to get an update just for today and I do not have one. Kim, do you know if they've started that construction?
Ask that again. I'm sorry. I was sending Mark Walker a text.
At the Wildflower Court sidewalk replacement.
I think that's starting, yeah.
It should, if it hasn't starting, it should be starting soon.
I think it has.
The ED design, ED renovation, we just talked all about that. And then the BRH surge projection, phase, arch flash, circuit breaker coordination is a little bit lower priority than the other projects above there, just because there's needing to figure out how to phase the work to make sure the hospital is still operational at all times. And that's a really big task to figure out for sure, 100% for sure, where all circuits are connected. And that's all the projects we have.
I have a quick question. On the asbestos abatement, how much asbestos containing material is still in the older part of the hospital? How much more abatement will need to be done as there's future modifications to the facility?
Well, I know that each room now is going to have a card that will say, you know, you walk in the room and there's a card that says what is still hazardous materials. And I know in the rooms that we did the flooring abatement, which are clean laundry, materials management, and a lot of those other smaller rooms like the locker rooms downstairs, the floor is now abated, but most of those rooms, I believe the walls, the drywall, tape and mud still contains asbestos. But I think it's, yeah. That answer your question?
Well, I think so, yes. Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you. Then I guess we're ready to talk about services updates. Looks like specifically orthopedics. Tim, did you have some update for us on that?
Just a minor update, and I will say Joe's on his way. He had another engagement, so he should be here shortly. So to the chair, yeah. So basically, orthopedics is working pretty, going really well. That growth has really grown quickly with their patient load, and so they are looking at potentially bringing on 2 more orthopedic specialties, which could include, you know, some talk about spine and also pediatric ortho. So more to come on that, but they are pretty busy. My understanding is Dr. Ballmer is booked out until January.
Oh, January. That's very interesting to me. Are there any other questions on this, on the orthopedics update? Okay, well, that brings us to the master plan, but you said Joe's not here. Could we skip ahead to new business and talk about the sobering center?
Sure. So through the chair, so as you guys may or may not know, the current space for sobering services is St. Vincent Hall, where there's some, you know, it needs renovation. There's leaks and plumbing. So the city has asked Bartlett to help find a location for temporary sobering services or permanent sobering services. So we met with Robert Barr, Rich Etheridge. They went through a tour of rainforest recovery to see if that space could work for temporary space. And then we met again with GHS and some other folks to see if it would be possible to maybe put it on their property, on their, for their services. The renovation, my understanding for St. Vincent Paul, if they chose that option, there's 3 options given. It was the Thane Warehouse, St. Vincent Paul, or Rainforest Recovery, or having Bartlett try to figure out helping find placement. But any renovation would be anywhere from 6 to 9 months probably. So the short term would be actually more of a long term. So they did look at the space over at Rainforest, thought it would work with very little capital having put in all the carpet would have to be pulled out of there. Door locks on doors and the double doors that separate that building between the orthopedic clinic and where the sobering services would be. So we've looked at different plans to try to mitigate them not being on campus. Just, right now it's a 24-hour operation sobering center. And of course, we wouldn't be able to provide that 24-hour service with orthopedics, during that time that orthopedics is practicing or seeing patients. So we did have a conversation about the COVID cabin, and is that a possibility since it's a modular building to be able to, the feasibility to run plumbing through it and put bathrooms. The request would be a separate bathroom for those using sobering services in a separate bathroom for staff. Right now, they share the same bathroom and they also have a shower. So we have a meeting setting up a meeting with Mark Walker and Rich Etheridge to plan to go look at the COVID cabin. It's boarded up right now in the lot below Aurora Behavioral Health to see if that would be a viable option in space for them to use that temporarily somewhere while they're renovating another space for sobering services.
So still no resolution. Still just.
No resolution.
Thanks. Any questions? Okay. Well, here we are. Just exactly, yes. So we're at the facility master plan. Any comments on that?
I have one quick question. I wasn't fast enough to turn my microphone on.
Okay.
What's the urgency or the timeline that the CCFR is looking at to get the sobering center moved into its temporary space? Did we get any kind of indication of that, Kim?
They didn't give us a specific date other than to say that the current state of the current place that they're at is almost inhabitable currently. And so they're looking at a very quick option. So my feeling, my thought was as soon as they could move out, they would do it immediately. If we had something ready to go, that they could do it quick, like tomorrow type of time frame that was very quick. They were looking at space to move into.
Okay, so just if we're moving into the old rainforest recovery space, as soon as we can get those minor updates done, they'll move right in. That's the plan.
That is the plan.
Okay, thank you.
I've got a question now to think about. So how many spaces, I'm not sure what term used, how many bays, how many beds, how many people might be using that at a peak time?
I can't remember the number through the chair. I can't remember the number that they told me, but they thought even the COVID cabin would be enough space because they just need basically 2 big rooms, one for a male and one for a female, and then 2 bathrooms that would be separate in a shower. And then I think their current place has a washer and dryer in it, or there's washer and dryer capabilities that they're using.
But they've had no comment about how many individuals need to be serviced at one time.
I think
We
They
used to
said-
run it, we used to have 6 sleep pads, 3 for male, 3 for female.
And I think they said the max that they had a night, I wanted to say was 10 to 15.
Is that how many you said?
I think so. I can't remember that. It wasn't
10 to 15 meals and
total. And that varies. They said that that number definitely drops in the summer. The number of people that use sobering services drops in the summer as opposed to the winter.
thank you. Any other questions?
I got an update from Mark Walker about the fuel tank and the sidewalk project, if you want me to do that.
Yes, you.
So the old tank was removed. It's running on the temporary tank, while the permanent area is being prepped for the permanent tank. And then the sidewalk project, is awarded. And it looks like the work will begin and will be completed no later than September 15th.
Of this year. Yeah. All right. Bring it back to the facility master plan.
Facility master plan, there's the RFP process, it was awarded to BOI Rappids. It's the company that we had reviewed prior, and so the ones we actually looked at the proposal. We got stuck with legal and it went back and forth between CBJ legal and Hollander, and we finally came to common grounds, and I understand today. So, yes.
Hey, can you tell me what's the issue there? with that kind
So it started with planning and then it went to, they shot it over to legal and shot it to Allrender. Allrender did a revision on it. Had to send it back to legal for their blessing on it. So it's this, we're required to use Allrender for certain legal services. And so CBJ kicks it, but they still want to seem to have a say in things. It's my take on it. We'll reduce the process. But we should be signing the contract up here relatively. I've been in touch with the lead on from their side. He understands we're just waiting on the contract. And so we have tentative meetings. We keep bumping back waiting for the contract. Once we have that set, we're going to kick off meeting.
Okay. Any questions on that?
The time
Mr.
frame.
Chair,
Oh, it's, okay. Well, go ahead.
Okay.
We'll get to you in just a second.
Yeah, my question is that I assume they will have to have somebody here on site. There will be discussions about what search is doing, because that might impact what we're doing. So they'll assess the lay of the land. This will be a months-long process, certainly not a year-long process.
4 to 6 months.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Deb, did you have a question?
I did. Was there anything substantive in the contracting process, or was it that was the holdup, or was it just going through the process that delayed contract signing?
Just going through the process, nothing substantive.
That's my only question.
Okay, then can we move on to the family practice update, including the letter from?
Okay, I'll start with a quick update. We've got the valuation back from the certified valuer. It came in at about 103,000 initially. The providers had some concerns about some of the line items, specific values that were assigned to them. So they're working with the person that did the work to make sure they understand it. And then if they have any concerns or if they want to amend it, they'd have to work with that person. It's whatever they sign off on, it becomes the valuation that we would end up paying for this process. So they're currently working through that. So based on that, and then kind of how that delays the project, we're probably looking closer to August 1st start date than the July 1st date.
Okay.
But we also have most of the staff, I believe, have been submitting background checks, getting on board with us. So we have a lot of that rolling as well. We've had IT walk through the space, understand infrastructure needs. All the computers are going to need replaced. There's going to need a phone system, switches, some of that stuff to make sure it's secure.
When you say the staff, you're talking about just rolling over their existing staff?
They still have to go through our process. We have to do Jen had to go through and do a one-to-one, make sure they could fall within one of our job categories. So they fall on the DBM schedule. We had to do Alaska State background check on all of them. And drug checks, drug screenings.
And do we have any sense of whether people will be getting a raise or? losing money, this.
No one's losing money. So through the process, we made sure they fell on the scale and we put them at the closest step that would not result in a decrease in pay.
So generally, the people would expect, might even expect a raise.
Yeah, in general, it was, yeah.
I would say, I can't speak definitively, but our benefits through the city and borough too are incredibly robust. So
Sorry if I mean, oh, a whole lot better than the private sector. So that's and if you can keep their salaries the same and then they get city benefits, my staff would want me to sell to you guys too. That's a good deal. Dang.
what's the number?
Yeah.
I'm just talking.
Later. Well done. Dang, good job.
Okay, well, very good on that.
Oh, man, that's not a question. So what about the doctors? Are they going to be paid by the city or by the Barton Hospital?
And then be paid as part of the hospital employees. Yeah, contracting is very specific with them. I try to do a productivity-based contract with providers. That's the route we're going with the providers.
And they're still on board with that.
Yeah, those were the first agreements we had signed to put into place. We needed to make sure they were on board. So we had the 3 physicians sign their employment agreements, and then we're currently working on the nurse practitioner. We ran into a little snafu that we're trying to work through with legal.
Okay. And then if I may keep going, so is there a length of time that the contract runs? So I'm just wondering, like, how long is Dr. Malter going to practice?
Our initial agreements were 3 years, but there's outs in all of them.
There is, okay, so 6 months notice or something, and they can leave or 3 months.
90, 120 days. Yeah. I mean, but the intent is that we start recruiting for his replacement sooner rather than later.
Yes. Wonderful, thank you.
Okay, how about the letter from Dr. Chris?
So we started the letter with all the board members. In summary, the letter wants us to kind of stay in our lane is my assessment of it. As we kind of look at the lay of the land and we're trying to compete with search and make sure we're doing what's right for patients and Bartlett. I think our goal is to try to be, as providers come to us, we need to have conversations, whether they fall into a singular bucket of adult medicine, or if we start getting pediatrics or different groups coming to us. I think we just need to have conversations with each of those providers. Because since we've made this announcement, several of the search doctors have reached out. So I can't say that we will honor the request, but we have to have conversations with all the providers. I mean, with our goal is to be a landing spot for providers in town, we might creep outside the boundaries that they're currently in.
As I looked at her, well, first of all, let me say, I don't think this is a board decision what to name this. I would think that would be a management decision. But I would personally advise you to take her letter to heart and consider it. She did make one suggestion that was somewhat generic.
Adult medicine.
That's too specific, but then she also, what was the other one? She suggested Bartlett Medical. She suggested either Bartlett Adult Medicine or Bartlett Medical Clinic, which seemed a little more compromise. I understand the continuity with family practice, the name of that practice when it started. First here they're delivering babies and doing all kinds of family practice, but over time it has become adult medicine. But I see what you mean. In the future, it wouldn't have to be, but.
I mean, there is 2 family medicine. There's one family medicine doctor, and then there's a family nurse practitioner who does see children at this point. So it's not entirely adult medicine. Our goal with the name was kind of amalgamation. We want to make sure Bartlett was in the name, but we wanted to pull pieces of their name to show kind of the history. I mean, it's something we can look at in the future, but as you start setting up a clinic, getting contracts in place, getting MPIs, tax IDs, we had to start with the name. That was step 1. So this is ingrained in a lot of the documents we've already put in place.
How much trouble would it be to change them?
It'd be a fair amount of work to go
Yes.
through and change all those. And so I would say we wanted to finish all the processes, get all the contracts in place, then we can even consider that. But we're in the middle of negotiating with Premier and at this point.
Have you discussed this with Amy?
No, I was gonna let the board discuss it. I mean, to me, I mean, the name's one thing, but the intent of the letter was deeper than that, and that's how I read it, I guess.
Well, I just hope that she really understands, we take,
Yeah.
she writes us a letter that we take it seriously. I certainly value her service. To med exec and the things that she's done. I think especially she should be taken seriously. And I want her to feel that way.
I agree with Joe. I think that the name is not as important as the worry that Bartlett will then employ pediatric physicians that will then, because they can give better benefits, right? So now Amy's practice becomes less valuable. So Amy gets pissed off and goes to search or something like that. So that would be the big worry. So that's why I don't think the name is as important as the communication.
I completely agree. That's the point I was trying.
Yeah, and I'm trying to keep Amy and Valley, but I try to have constant communications with them.
As we transition from the 20th century to the 21st century,
Yes.
where there just aren't that many private physicians anymore. I'm a dinosaur, Amy's a dinosaur. Valley Medical will be the last group standing. But we have to be sensitive to let these people sort of glide out. And that's what we did with Alex Malter and Nate Haddock and Danny Van.
Transition with Grace, I guess.
Yeah. And what I would suggest then, as one of the dinosaurs, to try to promote, if it's a specific pediatric physician who wants to practice here, try and say, why don't you talk to Amy?
Okay. Would you like to take the chair again?
Fine, John.
Okay. We're down to committee comments and questions.
Do that when I get out of my car. I've been sitting in my car for,
Do you have any comments or questions?
I don't. And thank you for stepping. My faux pas.
Does anyone else have any comments or questions? Any comments from staff? Questions from staff? Any comments from other board members? I see that I'm not sure who all. Anybody else? If not, here we are, 40 minutes after the hour.
Move to adjourn.
Okay. We're adjourned.
You.